Okay. Excuse me. Simon Pei, right? Halfway through Pei, dinim nafla deleka b'Shabbos, right? If a fire falls out on Shabbos, so we were up to Dalit, right? So abatim in the houses, shein sham deleka ela shein kroivim b'yirem shedegia gam lahem. So this is the one that's the most nagea with the fires. The houses that don't have the fire, but the neighbors. Right, so they're close and they're scared that the fire might get them. Since they're not bahol, they're not. What was the title for that? They're not panicky. So they're allowed to take anything out of their house. Meaning, if they're worried about their house, so they could take anything out. Even though the person is a strange halacha. The person whose house is burning down is limited. He can't take anything out because we're afraid if we let him take things out, then he's going to end up putting out the fire. But the neighbors were not as concerned. So Yeshem the Gam Mois, the Shardvarm Yikarim, and there are those that say even money and other expensive items that are muksa, how bishain muksin, even though the muksa mutal atzilim and a hefsed agadol hapasaimi, you're allowed to save them from the big loss. Kigan deleko, shataf mayim, or gzela, either from a fire or a flood or gzela. Ide masha manichem aleim eza davar meichel matatel nezeken biyachad. Like they put some food on there, and then they take it all together. Right? That's like the putting the chal on top of the mace. One of our favorite subjects from Shabbos and the Daf. All right. So, but the first, and there's a big cooler. You can't normally take non-muksa items and put them down on top of muksa items on Shabbos, but here you're allowed to. That's what he says in parentheses. Ain't shum heter kain muksa. In other places, there's no heter at all. Yesh makil and oid yoser, and then there are those that are even more make shafil levadan yichan letaltalin, that even you can even move the muksa itself. Mishum the b'makam hefsed gadol pesaymi nidcha iser muksa, because in the chance of a sudden loss, then you have a problem of actually yotzi lemakam shasurin lahoitzi, as long as you don't take it out to an iser hoitzah. Which is interesting because according to this shita, we're matering muksa, but not to carry out to a reshus that you're not allowed to. Mastami means a reshus that's a deraisa, because otherwise, l'chara, what's the difference in isurim, right? So I'm not sure which ones they're asking, which ones they're not asking. Fine. Hey, kol sifrei kodesh, all svarim, bein shein b'chsa, bein shein b'tfus, whether they're written or whether they were handwritten or they were printed. Then you're allowed to save from the lake, Aishat Mayim, or a flood, or Kedaima. Afil lechater or lemavi, even to a chater or a mavi. Shasurin lahaitzi lisham, that you normally can't carry them. Machal shalai also erev, that didn't make an erev. Hu kishahin mesukanim beinin shayim ma'alei ruvi chatzeres teshtuve mevois. But they have to make sure that they have an erev chatzeres, a shtuve mevois, meaning that halachically it can be carried there. Avayidei akum, mutter latzilan, but with a guy, it's mutter to save afilu derech rishus haramim, even into rishus haram. Hatzalas, that's amazement adleika. That's what we referred to before. That's ayin lekaman. Fine. Vav. So again, basically for svarim, you're even allowed to ask a guy. Vav matzil, and then he's allowed to do with the rice. Matzil and tikka sefer ima sefer. Not only are you allowed to save the sefer, but you can even save the bag or the box that the sefer's in. But take out tefillin and tefillin, and the same thing with the tefillin bag. Zayin Sefer Torah koydem lahatzel l'shar svarim, and a Sefer Torah comes first before other svarim. Right, meaning other svarim here means even nach. Ches kishiyesh chashas safek nefashos mutar l'chavos is adleika. When it's a safek nefashos, you're allowed to put out the fire. Also, this is the big one. In places that the Yidden live with Goyim, mutar l'chavos is adleika. Afilu hu bebeis akum. You're allowed to put out the fire, even if the fire's in a guy's house. Why? Because we're looking at it as a suffix nefashos, because we're afraid people are going to come to steal, goyim are going to come steal, and they're going to how do you say it? They're going to steal, and then it's going to come to a sakonas nefashos, right? So it doesn't say anything here about that the goyim are going to get upset that the Yidden are not putting out their fires. It doesn't say that. V'akol lefi ha'inyan, that's what I think he means. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch means lefi the inyan, meaning because if you know with certainty that there's going to be no sakana, let's say you have a good police presence, then you're not allowed to put it out. And then you have the Mishnah Brura who brings that the minig was to put out the fire because we're afraid that it's going to spread to other houses, and then there could be a sakana. Problem is, as a Mishnah Brura, they lived in little towns where houses were right on top of each other. Nowadays, our houses are pretty far away from each other. So if that's the case, so then it's not really such a chashash. But some poskim want to say that the electric wires, fire can spread through the electric wires. So even nowadays, you have a heter. But this is all talking about Yidden putting out the fire themselves. Of course, you can go nowadays with all these concerns. You can certainly call the fire department. And call with a shino also. V'dafka l'chabes mutter. And dafka, that's only to put it out. But also l'chal Shabbos gedei lahatzel moment. You only allowed to put out the fire, but you cannot be mechal Shabbos just to save your money, right? And if say you did and you were mechal Shabbos, then he doesn't say you're potter. Yelech el harav levakesh yirei tshuva. You have to go to the Rav to find out that he should find out what type of tshuva, right? Even if it was a derabanan. That's a hard set of halachas right there. Siman Beivav, Dine Rechitza. Boy Zion Sifim. Yeah, so this is the Olam's favorite subject, showering on Shabbos. Right? So, Aser, Lircha, Kol Gufay, it's Aser to wash the entire body. Ayafilu Roiv Gufay, even the majority of the body. B'mayim Chaima, with hot water. Afilu Huchum of Shabbos, even if it was heated up on Friday. Right? Afilu Lircha, even if you're not washing at one time, right? Ella aver, you're washing what everybody loves to call aver. Also, beroiv gufa, it's also if you're going to do the majority of your body. And even if you just go into the bathhouse just to sweat, gam kain also, it's also. It's panav yadav v'raglav, but it's also to wash the hands, feet, and the face. Mechamet shuchim of Shabbos, for it's chamin that gets heated up was heated up on Shabbos, right? I'm sorry, Erev Shabbos. So Aver doesn't work. I'm sorry, Aver works, but not if you do the majority of the body. Panav Yodav Raglav works with water that was heated up before Shabbos, and other parts of the body too also works. He just says Panav Yodav Raglav, right? And of course, it doesn't. And of course, you can't heat with anything heated up on Shabbos is also base. Hamayim Shemim Mekoyrim. So water that's Shehim Mekoyrim Noivim Chamim from the source, meaning it's naturally like the Chamet Ferik, meaning it's hot water coming from the source. Nobody heated it up; it's naturally heated. Imheim Bekarka. So if it's in the ground, Veinamakam Mekoyra, and there's no roof over it, like in Chamet Ferik, they have these spas that they build over it. Then in that Mutter Lirchatzvim, you're allowed to wash in them. Afilu Kol Gufa, even your entire body. Avolim Bekli, but if they're in a utensil. Or if it's in a place with a roof, then it is aser. Even if just to go into a beis hamerchatz to sweat up, it's aser. If as long as it's still in the ground, even if there's a roof over it, then it's mutter to wash in them. Okay, that one's not so negay. This is the one that's more negay. So you're allowed is mutter to towel your entire body in cold water. Me'ikar adin. But don't go stand next to an oven right after that to heat up because that's like washing in hot water, because you can heat up the water that's on your body. And even if it's just to wash your hands in cold water, you shouldn't heat them up next to the oven, while they're still wet. It's like washing with water that got heated up that day. That it's also to wash in them even one limb. You have to dry your hands first well. That you're supposed to dry your hands off before you dry them. So there's only a little bit of water left on your hand, because you don't want to be laundering the towel. Somebody who's washing his body has to be very careful not to squeeze out the hair. Now, contrary to popular belief, squeezing out the hair is not an Issa D'Oraisa, it's an Issa D'Rabbanan, because hair that can't absorb. It's only multiple hairs together, so it looks like the water is absorbed. So the Rabbanan said you're not allowed to squeeze out hair. You got to be careful not to swim. Ki also losha b'Shabbos Yom Tov. It is also to swim on Shabbos and Yom Tov, because we're afraid you're going to make a raft or a tube or something like that. That means in a swimming pool that has a wall, me'ikar adin, you should be allowed to swim, meaning in a river or something like that. So there's nothing for you to grab onto. So and there's it's near trees, so there's a chashash. But in the pool, it's really not a chashash. But Ramosha in the Chuvas says that you can't, you shouldn't, right? Because there's haitzah issues. That push comes to shove. Those that swim on Shabbos, there's a lot worse things you could do. It might be worse to read Mishpacha magazine on Shabbos than to swim in a pool. I'm just saying, at least naked. With a bathing suit, maybe it's an issue. Maybe we're afraid that you might squeeze it out. But and the minhag in Klal Yisrael has always been not to. You also don't float anything like little pieces of wood. No floating things on Shabbos. And let's say you're washing yourself in a place that you're not allowed to carry. Let's say in a regular ocean, which is it's a Carmelist. You can't carry the Torah Chaylizar. You have another thing to be careful. Shekayim Tzeisa, before you get out of the water, Yasser Tchila Hamayim Shal Gufa V'Saroisav. You have to remove first the water that's on your body and your hair, L'Nagvam Yafa, to dry them well, Shala Yishar Lav Mayim, so that there wouldn't be any leftover water on you, V'Yotzim Rishus L'Rishus, and then you're going to take them from one Rishus to the Rishus, because the water is a Carmelist, and then you're going to end up carrying it, let's say, either into Rishus HaRabim, or within the Carmelist, or to Rishus HaYochid. V'gam benahar atzmai, on the river itself, tzarich lizar shelo yisa samayim she'olav dalar amas. Even in the river itself, you shouldn't carry dalar amas ki nahar hu ku carmelis, because like we said, a river is a carmelis. Well, if she'ain kulam, meaning, so there's complications here, but the least of it seems to be the hair. Mostly the concerns are carrying. Since most people don't know these halachas, the minig has gone out in these countries. No, no washing at all on Shabbos, even in cold water. Unless it's a tzarich mitzvah, could go in isha nida, ve'ish l'kiryoi, right, for a man for any sort of tumah. All right, now Ramosha, for this you also need another tshuva from Ramosha. So, so first of all, Ramosha says men cannot go into a hot mikveh, and the pashat halacha is that men's mikveh is really not important. So it's a chumrah, this and that. To go into a hot mikveh on Shabbos is really shver halachically, really shver. So whatever, there's an opinion of the Karban Asanal that they can rely, that the Chassidim rely on to go into hot mikvahs. Anyways, but Ramosha says no hot mikvah. There are places where they say even women can't go to the mikvah Friday night if it's a hot mikvah. We obviously don't paskin like that, but the heaters are supposed to be off in the mikvah. They shut them off before Shabbos. But then Ramosha says that this whole takana was really for bathing, sitting in the bath, but to take a shower, which doesn't have any of the carrying concerns, etc., then that minig never took hold. He says you should still not shower, but um, but lamaisa, he says it's allowed if it's dirty and hot, etc., like a second day Yom Tov, even a first day Yom Tov sometimes. Then Ramosha says the minig does not apply to showers. Hey, you're allowed to stand on the edge of the river and wash your hands in the river. And there's no concern for taking the water out from the water that's on your hands to the edge of the water. Lefisha anahar who carmelis, because the river is a carmelis. Sfas anahar who gamkin carmelis, and the edge of the river is also carmelis. So it's the same rishus. Carmelis to carmelis with dalaramis. You're allowed to carry from carmelis to carmelis less than dalaramis. And it doesn't mean just hands, it also means feet. Because people ask, can you put the feet in the pool? Can you put your feet in the ocean? That's mutter. Rakshi Yizor L'Nagav Yodav Hatev Kodim Sheilach Dalaram. The only thing is you have to make sure, if you're putting your feet into the ocean, you have to make sure that you dry up your feet before you walk the Dalaramas. Okay, I hope we got epis akula or not too many chumras from this whole sugya. All right, everybody should have a fine night. Shebasuras Taivus.